Coaching in Session.
Your exclusive destination for unparalleled personal and professional growth.
With your host, Michael Rearden.
Whether you choose to live within limits or break free, your mindset journey begins here.
One of the trends you're going to be seeing in the next couple of weeks, you probably have already seen it. And of course, this is a mindset podcast, personal development. So everything is going to be very similar in line with who you are becoming. But sometimes we laser pinpoint on something. Well, we're going to be looking at leadership. We're going to be looking at purpose. We're going to be looking at mission and vision. And it's something that has been a question I've been asking many guests that have been coming on. And I'm going to keep on asking guests because every single time I ask a question very pertinent to purpose, why, vision, mission, sometimes you get something so amazing, you have to just put it out there for everyone to listen to and enjoy. Now, when we start to look at, well, what is purpose? What is our mission? What is our vision? We can easily get those answers, right? And I have a blog here that is talking exactly about those three. Now, what we are going to focus on today is what is the difference in the mindset? Because we can look at purpose, and purpose is the core reason for your existence, right? Why am I here, right? Going to that why question. We can look at mission very quickly. It's the action you base on your purpose, right? So it's the how behind your why, right? How are you going to get it done? And then vision is very simple, right? Vision is the destination, right? The bigger picture of where you want to be in life. And so you can put all of those three together and you can say, this is what I want. This is my purpose, right? You can say your family, your wife, or whatever. You can give yourself the mission, how you're going to get it done. And then the vision, right? The bigger picture, right? What is the end for you? Now, when we start to break those three apart, even though the words and the ideas might be the same, I want you to understand that they are going to be different. It's very similar to how if we go to the gym, let's say today's leg day. Now, there's different parts of your leg, right? You have all these muscles in your legs, right? You have calves, you have thighs, you have, glutes and stuff like that. You have a lot to work out. It's not something where you can say, you know what? I'm just going to do one workout today. Now, of course, we can do workouts that work out a good portion of our legs, deadlifts, some squats, things like that. And we can say, okay, I worked out my legs. But we are going to be focused on, or we're going to be missing on other areas that we could be giving more focus to because maybe you have little baby calves and you're like, oh, I got little baby calves and you want to work on your calves, right? Very similar to your bicep. You have three strands of muscles there. And so you have to work out those types, right? Your back is huge, right? Your chest has multiple parts, where you can work it out. That's why you have your incline and your decline, right? Because it works on different parts of your chest. Now, this is to say in life too now, right? We don't have to necessarily use a metaphor for working out for everything because you're going to have different waking moments in your life. You're going to wake up and maybe you go to work, right? The purpose for your job is what? Typically to make some money, typically to provide food and shelter for you, maybe your family as well. But then you might not have any alignment to your job beyond it making you some money, right? How many people they find themselves in dead end jobs? How many people do you know that have climbed the corporate ladder that did not find happiness? They chased the success, they chased the money. Too many people. Our world today will give you all the wrong answers if you're not paying attention. And when I say you're not paying attention, you just allow life to happen. Many people, they would love for people to do everything for them. But then when they finally get something they don't like, they're like, wait, something is wrong here because they're finally fully paying attention. And so today is an opportunity for you to pay attention. Today is an opportunity for you to get a piece of paper, opportunity for you to check out this blog again. Purpose, mission, and vision. What's the difference in mindset? And it leads to that final question, right? Of course, we're going to be breaking down everything a little bit more, but mindset behind everything. Now, of course, this is a mindset podcast. So who or what would I be if I didn't tie this all into mindset? Because that's going to be the bulk of our conversation today. If I said you could find happiness in a 9-to-5 job, would you believe me? Some people might. Some people might say, I don't mind working a 9 to 5 job. It's going to maybe pay all my bills, right? But maybe nothing more. How greedy can we be? How deliberate can we be? I think of asking the questions that are going to give us the answers that are going to lead to the results that we're looking for. For example, that 9 to 5 job question I asked you. Of course, you might have to ask clarifying questions, right? But I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to say, can a 9 to 5 make you happy? Can a 9 to 5 give you fulfillment? Yes or no, right? And that's what you need to ask yourself. And if you come with a yes, okay, great. Keep doing what you're doing. But if it's a no, then we need to look deeper because there's something that's inside of you right now, whether you know it or not. This is mindset here, people, that is asking this for you to stop what you're doing and to do something different. Because of course we can go down the list of clarifying questions. Well, let's figure out how much this 9 to 5 is paying, right? Because this 9 to 5 is paying $100 an hour. Sure, I'll do it. If this 9 to 5 is able to give me the lifestyle that I want, private jets, big houses, fast cars, yes, that is fine with me. I don't mind taking that 9 to 5. But what if that 9 to 5 had a negative stimulus to it too? So that means if you were getting all this money, if you were getting all these materialistic goods, but it was draining you, it was burning you out, it was making you miserable, angry, pathetic, would you say that that 9 to 5 job is something that you should keep in and be doing for the rest of your life? Because you might say, I'm going to stick it out to make it for the money. And sure enough, right? In the beginning, your mind is going to be focused as, well, this is the reason why I'm doing it. And it's a good reason, right? Making some money. It's going to overcome the pain or overcome the loneliness. And at some point, you will break. Everyone breaks. It's just a matter of time. They say a person who's trained, like a military person who's trained, a CIA secret agent that's trained in being tortured, they say they have about 18 hours before they break. It's 18 hours. You can break a person who has been trained to not break. Well, what are things that can break you? Torture, right? They can pull out your nails, cut off your fingers. There's was it like an Asian torture method of like a drop of water on your forehead? It's like a water torture method. And you wouldn't think that that would be effective, but it breaks a person, right? They use car batteries and electrocute you, they'll beat you up or something like that. And maybe you are saying, I can take all this, right? Yeah, I don't mind this. But what if someone you love is now in the mix? Your mom, your dad, grandma or grandpa, brother or sister, siblings, right? Or maybe cousins, uncles or aunties, or maybe your spouse, or maybe your children. Could you allow them to be tortured in front of you? Nothing happens to you. I know I couldn't. So even if I was trained to be some tough, son of a gun, that purpose of me being that protector and fighter for my family is going to say, hey, I understand, right? Less than 18 hours. So we need to figure out, well, our mindset can be fortified in certain areas, right? It could be fortified in that 9 to 5, and it can be fortified in, our purpose at the time. But if we don't get clear on, where we're strong and where we're weak, we're going to be crumbling at the seams. So instead of falling apart, let's figure out how we can put ourselves together. We do the work, right? We can check out this blog and we can talk about how living with purpose but no mission can affect us. We can talk about how living with mission but no purpose is going to affect us. We could talk about living with mission and purpose but no vision can affect us. It's all here in this article. Because when you are missing a piece of the puzzle, you're going to find yourself thinking about something. Something's missing. Have you ever felt that before? I know I have. I'll raise my hand first. And I'll keep my hand up until everyone else has raised their hand. Because there's a time in your life when you think you know everything. And when I was a kid, oh man, teenager, I knew everything. Smart aleck person, yeah, sure. Just because I didn't get a perfect grade on the test or just because there's books I didn't read, it does not affect the mindset. It's like, hey, I know what I need to know. I know everything I need to know. And of course, you humble yourself later on in life, mid 20s, late 20s, and you say, whoa, there's just so much more out there for me to know and for me to learn and for me to understand. And so many people, when it comes to them trying to figure out what is their purpose, they don't want to come to the realization of they don't know everything. Or maybe that, if you want to use a negative connotation to it, you're inadequate. Imagine if you started to tell yourself that you're inadequate because you felt as if they were things that you didn't know. I like to say that I'm a forever student. That has a better positive stimulus on the mind. So you want to do the things and say the things that are going to affect the mind in a positive manner. So your purpose, let it be positive. Your mission, let it be positive. Your vision, let it be positive. Because when many people are going in this world, they would love for positive things to happen, but something happens in their mind. As much as they would love to be positive and as much as they would love to be optimistic, they realize that the things that they would like to have are not happening. If they want to have a nice career and a nice home, and they're not having a nice career and they're living in a dump, or maybe they are giving themselves an intention to, be this role model and this figure, but you find yourself on the other end of an empty bottle or some drugs or cigarettes, and you're like, wait, what's happening? Well, of course, that might not be the vision long term, but it might just be the things that you use to cope currently. And many people, even though they might have a strong mindset, they might cope with things subconsciously. Maybe you are a person that is doing your best and, still say, you know what, as much as I will love for me to keep on with this path, I can't keep on with this because at some point I'm going to break. I know people who they're, starting off with a business or something and they don't necessarily know how they're going to make ends meet. We can look at the pandemic, right? It was it was jolting, right? People lost their livelihoods. I know during the time, one of the things I did was I got into this guy. His name was oh Jesus, I forget his name. Dave something. He's the pizza guy, right? I don't know if he's Italian or not, but he reviews pizza. Oh, Dave Portnoy. Now I got it. Dave Portnoy. One of the things he did was he created a COVID fund for pizza shops. And so if someone needed assistance for that time, so the pizza shops didn't close, he said, I'm going to help you so you can stay open and keep making good pizza, right? He's a connoisseur of pizzas. Now, Dave's style of pizza is very different than my pizza. I like Neapolitan pizza. He gives Neapolitan pizza 6.9. And hey, I can understand, right? He likes a New Haven style pizza. And I come from Connecticut. So I come from good pizza. And he's right. The pizza is delicious. But at some point, just because the pizza is a certain style, right? You get to choose what you want in life. You get to choose your favorite colors. You get to choose the color of your car, the brand of car you drive. You get to choose what style home you live in. You get to choose what type of clothes you wear, I hope, right? All of these things. And, it basically all ties in with who you are as a person because we might say, you know what? This is just who I am, right? And we don't do the work. However, when it comes to one of the main topics we're going to be talking about in the next episodes and weeks is about leadership. It's about defining exactly, who, what, where, what, why, how, getting clear on our life. Because yes, it is easy to say, okay, let me get a piece of paper. Let me figure out what my purpose is or who my purpose is. Let me figure out my mission, right? How am I going to get it done? Let me figure out the visions that I have for myself. And of course, we can daydream and we can, think about, all these wonderful things. But at some point, your mind is going to say something and it's going to say, you try so hard, but yet you have nothing. You do all of these things, but yet you don't or not getting the results that you're vying for. People who start to work out, for example, in 3 months, they already stop it because they're not seeing the results exactly how they want to. Maybe you are overweight and you're like, I'm not losing the weight. Well, you have to ask yourself a serious question. How long did it take you to gain that weight? It took you years, and you're expecting to change in months? Sometimes our purpose, even though it could be strong, sometimes we have to define that purpose and it could take some time. Of course, we can give ourselves the blanket purpose of our family, our careers, and our jobs and our business. We can give ourselves the mission of our character and what we need to be feeling. And then, of course, the vision of what we would like to see in the future, right? But then I look back at when I was a teen, my purpose, my mission, my visions, they all shift. There's a pivot at some point. I have to understand that even though, I give myself this defined version of what I need to do, that there's a possibility that things can change, that there's going to be battles down the road that I might have to deal with. If I know that there could be some hardships later on in life, okay, I can either wait for them to come and then be upset, or I can say, you know what, let me make the best of what I have today. Because most people, they're living in struggle right now and they're looking at struggle in the future. And when they get to struggle in the future, are not necessarily looking at the struggle that they already had. We are built on challenge. And so many people, they will forego the challenge. They will forego the bad moments because they will love nothing more than to be distracted. Because if you are distracted, you're not looking at your purpose. You're not looking at how you're going to accomplish the missions that you're giving yourself. Or you might not even be looking at the bigger picture of your life as a whole, the vision, because we are so caught up in figuring out how we're going to survive. Most people are in that survival mode, right? So, yeah, sure, you might be living in the present if you're trying to survive, but most people, when they're trying to survive, they're not trying to figure out a way out because they're surviving for one day and the next day and the next day. And before you know it, life's already over. And you have lived a life of just trying to survive. But there's more. There's more to you. There's more that you can accomplish. Of course, if you check out this article here, purpose, mission, and vision, what's the difference in mindset? You're going to realize that purpose, mission, and vision are not just the buzzwords that we think about. They can lead to a life that's going to be fulfilling for yourself. It's the foundation that you do. And there's going to be different layers of foundation. There's going to be different homes that you built. One of the things I think about was when I was, I don't know, 22, like 21, 22, around there. I was going out when I was 20, going to the bars, drinking, 3 to 6 months around there, and spending money, go out, have fun, right? And let me tell you, I had a lot of fun. But at some point, I said, "What am I doing? Like literally, like what am I doing? Like this is dumb." Sometimes when I'm scrolling on my phone, like by accident, like it happens almost like instinctually, where it's just like I'm on my phone doing an email, then next thing I know, YouTube is open, or I'm on Facebook looking at social media posts and whatever, and then I'm scrolling, and I'm like, whoa, how did this happen so quickly? I just fell off the rail, and I said, you know what? What am I doing? And then I'm able to press the power button, put my phone down. And then I carry on with my day. I have other things to do that take precedence to me doing social media or stuff like that, right? And I mean, if you send me a message on social media, hopefully I respond. And hopefully meaning, did I look at it? But, the best way to get a hold of me, do a consultation and or to send me an email. I know a lot of people like to send me emails. So send me an email, coachinginsession@gmail.com. You're going to get me sooner than if you send me a Facebook or Instagram message. Like those things, as much as I understand social media is so powerful, it's not something that I give myself an intention to. I don't give myself this idea of, hey, I'm going to do this because it's going to make me feel good. I know some people love the followers and love the likes. And, for me, I could care less. So what I'm trying to say is, when I was going out, and I was partying. It felt real good. It felt awesome. And even the people around me started to see, saying, "Hey, Mike, like, is everything okay?" And some people, they just kind of stayed by the waysides and kind of just monitored, like a coach would, watching the game, figuring out what's going on. And then after everything, all right, what went on? What went good? What went wrong? Right? And you start to break down. And it's so funny because even my friend Lewis, he was like, "Yeah, I was worried about you for a bit," and he was older than me, so he was a couple years older than me, probably like 5, 6, 7 years. So I was like, you should have told me something." He's like, "No, because if I told you something, it would have been like a combative thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right," because again, I had that ego. I knew everything. So from there, I was like, so there's people who are paying attention even if you think they're not. There's people who can see the good and the bad in your life, whether you can see it or not. And I'm sure because I sometimes will play back videos, and we grew up where there was video recorders and things like that. The lingo, the way I talked, the way I thought, very different than how it is now. And maybe even in 10, 20 years, whatever it be, I look back at the podcast and I listen to some episodes and I might say, what in the world was I thinking? That is fine because I'm not afraid to grow. Are you? Are you afraid to change? Are you afraid to look at your life and define what it truly means for yourself? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that if you create the foundation and you begin to build and it's not something you love, tear it down. That's what I did when I was 21. I tore down that life, that party guy, that boy that everyone wanted to be around. And I said, no, this is not what I want. Of course, like I said, it was great. It was fun, good times, but it wasn't what I wanted for my life. And so I tore it down. Yeah, sure. Now it was an experience for me. And I know that even though, I have a son, and even though I can say, hey, this is what I went through, don't go through what I went through, don't go through the process. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Similar to how my friend Luz was like, yeah, I knew you were going to go through something. Maybe he went through it too. And he's like, I knew you would get out. And the only reason he knew I would get out because he knew my character. He knew who was backing me, my family, my mind. And so all of those put together, he was like, I knew you would find what was for you. I knew you would be able to, define your purpose, be able to, to define your mission in life, what you wanted to go after, the vision you have for yourself, and then you would do great at it. No, he didn't say those words, but he had the intention. He knew just from, his experiences and then, knowing me as a person, working with me closely, he was like, you'll be okay. Sometimes it might not feel like you're okay. I think back at the times and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be okay. But here I am today. I'm okay. My purpose has never been more refined than before. And guess what? I'm going to be looking at my purpose today, tomorrow, and the next day. Because our next episode, we're going to be talking about clarity, clarifying things. And I love, I truly love to look at my life and say, okay, what do I need? What do I need to do? Right? Let me look at things. Did things change? Right? We have a newborn, right? A new family member, right? Did things change, right? Did I check in? I know it's easy to get caught up in being a parent and you lose sleep and they need it. And, right now she's just smiling and is so happy. And I was just talking to my wife and I was like, she's a happy baby, right? It's easy for me to say, my purpose is her. My purpose is my son, right? My mission is them, right? But it has to be bigger than just the family. It has to be bigger than just your partner. It has to be bigger than maybe even your life. We have to build multiple foundations in a sense where we can say, we have this, we have that, and then we can build our empire. I don't think an empire is just one building. I think it's multiple. And so we do the work to build all the different foundations that we want. And then if we build something that we don't love or that we don't like or that we don't need anymore, we tear it down. And that is the mindset behind the purpose, the mission, and the vision. This article here is going to be talking about the blanket of what it is. But then when we get to the end, we're going to be understanding, are we in alignment? Are we reflecting who we truly want to be in the world and where we want to go? Are the daily actions that we have are bringing us closer to the end, right? Our destiny, our fulfillment, whatever you want to consider it. And then, am I being intentional in my days? Because I cannot tell you how many people live passively. I can't tell you how many people they call me and they need some help. And the moment they realize how much work they have to do, they say, I'd rather just suffer. Okay, I understand. Getting out of the hole can be very difficult. But if someone throws a ladder down for you saying, hey, climb up, are you going to use a little bit of energy to climb up? I don't know. You have to figure out where you are. As much as many people will love to give themselves the attention of climbing out, they won't. So today is the day for you to understand a little bit more about your purpose, a little bit more about your mission, a little bit more about your vision. All week, we're going to be talking about this exact topic because it's something where you have to do the work, right? It just has to keep hitting you, hitting you, hitting you. Very similar to how a blacksmith is forging a samurai sword. They do not just hit it one time. They hit it thousands of times and they fold it over and they hit it thousands of times more. And you might get tired of, oh my goodness, I'm so exhausted from forging this sword. But that sword is going to lead you to victory, right? You don't want to go into battle with a sword that's going to break or chip or not be able to protect you when you need it the most. Your mind is that sword. Your life is depending on it. Take the time, forge away, build the foundation, and define who exactly you are becoming.